Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Open Table Adventures. As always, I am Dan the Baker, and I am here today with a new series we are calling Eat This Game. Cheers. Yay. Woo, the crowd goes wild. Thank you. For the first iteration of this, I am here with the one of the creators of Sin Eater, Anica. Anica, hello. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hello. My name is Anica Sila. My pronouns are she, they, and I am the creator of Sin Eater. I'm also the brand director at a company called Hero Forge, which is a fun little in-browser character creator where you can create a character, which is cool, and you can use it for D&D or any other tabletop game, and you can buy it as a physical mini. But we're not here to talk about the day job. Like I said, I made Sin Eater. I also was a stand-up comic for a decade, former boxer. I actually recently got back into boxing, and I'll warn you, I'm in a lot of pain right now. So if at any point, Dan, you say something and I laugh and then grimace, it's not because your joke wasn't good. It's just every muscle inside of from like here to my knees is in pain right now.
So yeah, of the many hats and I guess gloves that you wear, one of them is the creator of Sin Eater. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Sin Eater is, what kind of game it is, how do you play it?
Absolutely, yeah. So Sin Eater is actually the first game I ever made. Mostly it's the first. I did, just for fun, make a Lasers and Feelings hack about the TV show Psych, because Psych is such a good TV show, and if you are a person listening to this who's always wanted to get into game design, but you don't know where to start, Lasers and Feelings hacks are the best way to do it. It's a great system for kind of figuring out how to build a world around a system that's very easy to map anything onto. But with Sin Eater, it is a solo journaling game based on the real historical practice of sin eating. And I can talk about what that is in just a second. But very broadly, what you do is by using 2d6, 2 custom coins, and a ritual mat, plus a few other odds and ends as well, that we don't provide. You have to provide yourself because there's a seek and find component. But basically, using all those things, what you do is you create yourself as your Sin Eater. You create the corpse whose sin or sins you're going to be either cleansing, which is the historically accurate thing to do, or condemning, because you don't have to. You can tell the family, like, yeah, they're in the good place. I always hated that guy. So you kind of decide who you are, who your corpse is, what their relationship is to you. Like, this isn't just some person. When I created this, I really wanted it to be someone where it's like, okay, who was this person to you? Was it a friend, an enemy, a lover? What's going on here? So you create the character and the character's corpse, and then you create the recipe where you go through and you decide, a really simple example is maybe you're absolving or condemning the sin of wrath, and you're like, I'm going to make a recipe that has lots of spicy and bitter food. That's totally valid. Or maybe you're absolving or condemning wrath, and you go, I'm going to make the recipe of the last meal that I had with an ex-partner of mine, and we ended on very bad terms. Like, there's so many different ways you can interpret what a meal of wrath or a meal of greed or a meal of lust might look like. So you come up with your recipe. You can make it in person, or you can just write it out all beautifully. You can use real world ingredients. You can use non-real world ingredients, put all that together. And then you get to the ritual portion, because with Sin Eater, it's not just about the eating, it's also about the sitting. So in the game, it comes with this big, beautiful ritual mat made by Johan Noor, who did all of the art and layout for Morkborg. And you get to the ritual part and you put that mat down, and then using a bunch of vague, open-ended, esoteric prompts, you actually have to get up and grab keepsakes from your own life and put them at various points around the body, in part because, as mentioned, I'm ADHD and I can't sit down that long. So I'm like, I need a recess in any game I play. And I love a game that's like, okay, get up, stretch your legs, and also justifies all of the little keepsakes that we all have. Clearly, as you can see behind me, I love items, and I was like, I'm going to make a game to justify my items.
Perfect.
And then exactly, yeah. And then at the end of the game, you have 2 coins. each one of the coins has a symbol on it that maps to one of the 4 humors. And to figure out whether or not you were successful in your recipe, successful in your ritual, basically to determine your degree of success in sending this soul wherever you wanted it to go, you flip each coin twice and you record the results. And if it's, heads, tails, then they're balanced. If it's heads, tails, broadly, it's slightly off balance. And then, heads, tails, bad time, really, really bad time for you. And you kind of have to figure out, if this soul didn't go where I wanted it to go, it's now kind of chained to my own soul. And how does that manifest around me? So that is Sin Eater.
Love that. You shared with me, I'm not sure if it was like the finished version, but one of the versions of it. It's such a gorgeous game. The art of it is so cool. The like language and font and everything is so cool. And it has that seems like very like well researched in like the historical context of everything. I would love to know where does that come from? Like, do you have like a love of history, or like was this just a random thing that you picked up on?
Sure. Yeah, and the first thing I want to do is talking about Sin Eater being a beautiful game, which I fully agree it is. And that is entirely due to our layout artist, Eric Sawicki. Eric made this game.
Example. There we go.
Beautiful. Yes, it's such an incredibly beautiful game. And that was really, Johan did, the cover. He did the epithet spread, which you just showed on screen. And then just seeing that and seeing what Eric was able to do and put everything together and do it so beautifully was just incredible. But for my interest in Sin Eater, I first learned about them. I have said this in a few different interviews about Sin Eater, and it's very hit or miss. But growing up, there was a book in my life, because I'm in my mid-30s, called Uncle John's Bathroom Reader. Which, did you ever have that in your household?
I don't think I ever had it in my household, but I think some of my like friends, I remember it like existing in my life. Yeah.
The only good stance when people are like, we have to go back to the old days. The only time that's allowed is when it comes to bathroom reading materials. Don't take your phones in there. It's gross. But there was a series of books called Uncle John's Bathroom Reader, and they were these fat books, and they had everything. They had fun facts. They had historical facts. They had like, here's a wacky coincidence in history. All of this information. Like, I truly, especially as someone who's neurodivergent, it was a dream to own something like that. They're amazing. But when I was like 10 years old, I read about this practice called sin eating, and that just burrowed its way into my brain, because I was like, that's bananas. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. And listen, that's the one time I've ever agreed with the Catholic Church about anything, because the Catholic Church did not like the practice of sin eating. Fair enough. It's a little bit cheating, but so I read about it, and it's just kind of stuck in my brain ever since then. And then I started getting the itch to design games at PAX Unplugged 2 years ago, because I was seeing all my friends and seeing all the games they were making, and I was like, I want to do that. And I was thinking about, well, what's a story I could tell? And I was like, what if I made a boxing game, which I still kind of want to do. I think that would be really cool. But I was like, that's not really, and then I started thinking about Sin Eaters. Oh, hold on. There's a siren going by. I don't know if you can pick that up.
Not a little bit,
the cops are here because my game's too cool. Yeah.
It's the Catholic Church coming for you.
The fun police are here. Anyway, so right when I was like, I want to make a game, I don't know what I want to make a game about. It was also when I was playing the game Pentiment. Are you familiar with Pentiment?
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's so good. It's sort of a visual novel made by Obsidian Entertainment, directed by Josh Sawyer, who also, I think, narrative directed Fallout New Vegas. And in it takes place in a like 16th century Bavarian. No. Yeah. 16th century is the 1500s. Sorry, I always get the math. Yeah. In the 1500s, it's in a Bavarian town that is a monastery with the village next to it. And in it, you are a journeyman artist who has to solve a series of murders. And it's niche. It is so historically accurate, down to how they run. Their run cycle is historically accurate. And
Mhm.
the font of the peasant class talking is different than the font of the monks, is different than once the printing press is introduced, then that
Mhm.
is a different font as well. It's a beautiful game. The art is heavily inspired by illuminated manuscripts. It's just really
Mhm.
cool. And I was like, what if I just made a game about something that was a niche historical interest that I cared about and had possibly no broader appeal?
Mhm.
And that's okay, because sometimes you just make games for yourself.
Yeah.
And Sin Eater was born. Very little historical information is known about sin
Mhm.
eating. Doing research for this was actually really difficult because it was one of those things where I don't know if you've ever like looked into historical research, but you get that thing
Mhm.
where it's like, I reference this thing and this thing reference this thing,
Yeah.
and then this thing reference this, and it's all kind of one sphere of like
Yeah.
4 sources, and 3 of those sources are very apocryphal. They have that,
Mhm.
citation needed bracket if they had been a
Yeah.
Wikipedia article. So
No, yeah. I
it meant
studied
that
music history for a while, so that's yeah.
cool.
And that's any music before, honestly, before the 16th century is kind of like, sure, it came from somewhere.
That's how I feel
Um,
about, because I got my degree in linguistics, and
Very
anytime
fun.
someone talks like any etymology being like, well, did you know this came from this? I'm like, probably didn't. Or
Yeah.
even if it like we're pretty sure it did, pretty
Hmm.
sure it's not a yes. So any
Yeah.
historical linguistics is similar where people are like, did you know? And you're like, that's not,
You
you
don't
don't
know.
know
Like
that.
that's no one
You're
knows.
just assuming because those words sound alike, but you don't
Yeah.
know. I'm sure music and language are very similar in that way,
Very
where people are
similar.
like, well,
Yeah.
clearly, and you're like,
No.
clearly, is it?
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Before we go down too much of a rabbit hole, because I know as history people we can talk on forever. You mentioned a little bit talking about kind of the ritual of it and like the humors, and how that plays into like the recipe you make. What are the humors? Like, how does that play into the food?
Yes. So for Sin Eater, and I will potentially get some more of my dates wrong, and I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
As much as I love history, numbers, no luck.
Yeah.
So the humors in Sin Eater is based on specifically the theory of humoralism, which was kind of the point in which, because the idea of like, oh, your personality and all illnesses are based on some essences in your body,
Mhm.
that's a lot of different cultures across a lot of different times. But humoralism was right around when Hippocrates and a Greek physician named Galen, decided to apply it to medicine. And I always like to flag, like, yeah, the Greeks didn't come up with this first, because there were a
Mhm.
lot of things that is attributed to the Greeks, and it's like, no, other people had
Yeah.
that first. Um, but with the theory of humorism, it's the idea that there are these 4 humors that control not just every illness, but control your entire personality. And that is blood. And if a person had too much blood, they had a sanguine personality, and they were
Mhm.
like really fun and cool and
Yeah. Mhm.
awesome. And then there was phlegm. And if you had too much phlegm, you had a phlegmatic personality, which I think meant you were a little like chill. I
Mhm.
can't remember what phlegmatic means. It's so embarrassing. Cut the part where I said I had a linguistics degree.
I'm gonna put that part back in right here, actually.
Because I got my degree in linguistics. Yeah, put it in repeatedly
Yeah.
every time I get a fact, even if it's a non-language fact, just put it in. Um, so there was phlegm, and then there was black bile, which made you one of them's choleric and one of them's melancholic, and I always confuse those. Oh, black bile causes a melancholic
Mhm.
personality because it also causes depression and cancer, so it's definitely the worst one of
It's,
the
yeah.
the
Mhm.
humors. And then the last one is yellow bile, which is the choleric personality. So it kind of just makes you a little fussy. So those are the 4
Mhm.
humors. Yes, I think I got all of those
Yeah.
facts right.
They sound right.
I
I
said
did
them
my
confidently. That's what
yeah.
matters.
I did minor research leading up to this. So it sounds like what I read. So that
Awesome. I'll count it.
So like what is it kind of like how each humor is kind of then associated with different types of food? Is that correct? Or is that a
Yeah,
bit vague?
not exactly. So what we did with this is that it more is based on what sensations each humor is associated with. So I have to like play through the game in my head for a second. So you create your recipe and then you're like, boom, it's done. And then the point of the humors is that each humor is also associated with a season and a sensation. So blood is associated with hot and wet. Phlegm is cool and wet. Yellow bile is hot and dry, and black bile is cool and dry. And I might have the hot and cool on the biles confused. But so basically what happens if you get 2 of one thing. So say you get 2 blood and then, you know, black bile, yellow bile. That means something about your recipe was too hot or too wet. Maybe, you know, you're a baker. Maybe you didn't bake it long enough and it has that like wet
get the soggy bottom.
At the bottom. Exactly. You got soggy bottoms. Mary Berry would be so upset about it. Or, you know, hot and dry or cold and dry. So what it's more about is that you kind of have to work backwards and go, okay, well, I made my meal. And then you create your ritual, you flip your humors coins, and then you go, okay, but how did that meal actually turn out? So you're kind of moving through different points in time with it, but ultimately it's more about what is associated with the humors, feelings wise or sensations wise, and how does it reflect upon the meal you made.
Okay, so is the goal then to be balanced, to have like your humors balanced? Because I know I've heard that in like this kind of context before, like having your humors balanced.
Yes, ideally, yes, but it's all they did, you have to have your frolic and your woe, and you gotta have all of them balanced. Yes, so and something that I like about it is that the balancing of the humors is entirely up to chance, and that was something that I think was really important for us. It's also, so there's 3 possible outcomes. You can have balanced humors, you can have discordant humors, you can have imbalanced humors, and you can have discordant humors. So statistically, if you think about the math there, balanced humors is not going to happen. It's going to happen a quarter of the time. Discordant humors are going to happen a quarter of the time. And then imbalanced humors will happen 50% of the time, because there's more. Boy, is that right? Stats was not my strong suit. That sounds right. At me on the internet if I'm wrong. But so basically the idea is that it is kind of random, because a lot about Sin Eater is a big theme in Sin Eater is like not necessarily having control. And you know, when as the Sin Eater, you're able to you're kind of able to exert control over a situation that you don't really have a right to have the power in. You know, to err is human, to forgive is divine, but you are, in theory, forgiving these sins that, do you really have the right to do that? So by taking the control of the results completely away from the player, it's not necessarily about like something that I like about solo journaling games is that it's not necessarily like, ooh, game theory, if I do this and this, and then I use my bonus token to balance the humors. It's like, no, that it's not about having a win condition. It's about, did you succeed? And also your success and failure was entirely outside of your own hands. Maybe that's a lesson that you shouldn't be playing God.
Yeah, it's very the journey, not the destination, is what it sounds like.
Yes. Yes. And that's something that I really like in solo games in general, and especially journaling ones, where it's like, I'm here to kind of have this experience. I'm here to work through some things, but not necessarily win or lose.
Yeah. I would love to, this is a very vague question, so you can have a vague answer, but if you were to just take a bite out of Sin Eater, like what would that be like? What would it taste like? What are the textures? Like what is the mouth feel that you get from Sin Eater?
To me, and I, you know, you told me this question was coming up, and I was talking to my partner about it, because I was like, I think the answer to that, this feels like such a cop-out question, but to me, the answer to that is entirely contingent on what soul, like what sin is weighing most heavily on your soul at that time. So if you are full of wrath, it will, like I said, it'll taste bitter and painful and unpleasant. Or if you're full of greed, it might taste very like rich and have sort of that almost a duck fat consistency. Kind of coats the mouth in a way that you're like, I understand that this is considered kind of a delicacy, but I don't know if I'm enjoying eating it. I think it just changes so much based on what evils you hold in your heart at that time.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, because it is I feel like it is such an open-ended game, so it makes sense for it to have that open-ended taste.
Basically, yeah. And again, it feels like such a like non-answer, but your experience of playing this game changes so drastically depending on the sin or sins in question. So it's based on what evils lurk in your own soul. That'll change the flavor.
Yeah. This also might be a vague answer, kind of in a similar vein. But what do you want people to like take away from playing this game? What, like, when someone finishes, a round of Sin Eater, like, what do you want them to be feeling? What do you want them to be experiencing with it? What do you want them to take away, I guess?
I want people to feel closure and peace. So something that I've said about Sin Eater is there's this huge caveat that playing tabletop games is not therapy. It is not, it's not a stand-in for therapy. It should not be treated as therapy. That being said, I think playing games can be therapeutic. And for me, when I wrote Sin Eater, there were people that I had in mind, specifically in that I have complicated relationships in my life. We all do. And humans are difficult. And there are people that you love but condemn. And there are people that you don't like but absolve. And there's it's an exploration of those complicated relationships in our life where you go, hey, this is what I'm going to think about. This is who I'm going to think about. And I'm going to work through this and I'm going to absolve you and I'm going to feel closure. Or I'm going to condemn this person or this concept in my mind. And that'll give me closure that maybe I can't have in the real world. And again, we have all of these kind of these points along the way and this way to kind of finish the game, to mitigate character bleed, or to kind of wrap it up to make sure that there's not too much character bleed. But it is a game, especially the part with the ritual where you go and take items from your own life, where I want there to be a feeling of bleed where no matter what it looks like, once you get done playing the game, you feel a kindness or empathy or softness or closure towards yourself and maybe another person in your life.
I love that. It's great. I'm very excited to play it. Kind of to wrap it up, take it home a little bit. I know the Kickstarter is, live now. I know you guys funded on your first day, I'm pretty sure.
We did,
a few hours, which is great. But what, give a little pitch for, because, it's still going on. You can still back it. What can people get on this Kickstarter?
Yeah, definitely. So there are 3 tiers. The first one is a PDF, which is amazing. We have everything that we don't have everything you need to play the game because you have to provide your own coins and your own dice, but you have the ritual mat and you have the game text in there. The next level up is the Prideful Archival. Knox, the creative director for Hunters, came up with all the names for the tiers, and they're so good. But Prideful Archival is what'll eventually be our retail, and it comes in a box kind of similar to the Mothership box, and it has a high quality paper ritual mat, 2 wooden coins, ivory colored dice, a very simple journal, and just a bunch of stuff. All the stretch goals, which are so cool, and then a soft cover thread-bound version of the book. And then our Envious Gilded tier comes in a wooden box with the Sin Eater logo. It has metal dice. It has, metal coins, real knuckle bone dice, hardcover book. It comes with a journal that has pages that are from real scans of illuminated manuscripts. Over Christmas break, I spent hours a day just like painstakingly getting all of these scans and removing all of the text and also just appreciating it. Like I really did my best instead of just erasing the text, just being like, dang, this is beautiful and cool. So tons of stuff, tons of really cool stuff. And again, so many stretch goals are included in those as well. So the replayability on this game is bonkers. Y'all are going to be getting a lot if you back it.
Yeah. All of the links where you can go to back it and support Anica and support Sin Eater will be down below. But yeah, I think with all that being said, I think I have a good idea of what I'm going to be making. So I'm going to gather some ingredients and get baking.
Let's go!
So for the game Sin Eaters, I am planning on making a mincemeat pie for a couple different reasons. One, because mincemeat pie is like a Christmas thing, and whenever I think of sin, I think of Christmas. That may be sacrilegious, but I'm not religious, so that's fine. And two, because it's a mix of dry and wet and hot and cold, much like the many different humors and how they affect things. And it should be a balanced humor situation. So to get started, we are going to put things in my big old pot. I'm doing a vegetarian version, so there's no actual meat in the mincemeat pie, but you can swap out some of the apples I have in the recipe to minced up beef, and it'll do the same thing. You can also swap out anything else for fruits you actually like if you don't like any of the fruits that I have in here. But we're going to start with the apples. Because this is kind of like the meat of the pie, I made them a little chunkier. You can, I used Granny Smith, but you can use whichever apple you prefer or is available to you. Next, we're going to add all of our dried fruit, starting with dried apricot, 1 cup, dried cranberries, 1 cup, golden raisins, and dried cherries. We're also going to add the zest of 1 orange, as well as half a cup of orange juice, a cup of brown sugar, a cup of apple cider, and half a cup of whiskey. You can also use rum, or you can omit the alcohol altogether. Just add an extra half a cup of apple cider. We're also going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon and a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. To finish off, I'm just going to do a little bit of salt. Next, I'm going to put this on a low heat, simmer it for about 25 minutes. When that's done, I'm going to put it in a bowl, cover it, and let it sit overnight. While that's simmering, we are also going to make our pie crust. This pie crust recipe is one I've been using since culinary school. It is easy as 1, 2, 3 because it is 3 parts flour, 2 parts butter, 1 part liquid. Start with your 3 parts flour. For this recipe, I'm going to be using 2 cups. And the ratio is based on weight. So 2 cups of flour is roughly around 12 ounces. So then I'm going to add 6 ounces of butter. This butter has been sitting in the freezer, so it is very, very cold. And that is just how we want it. And what we're going to do is just with our hands, we're going to go in there and start breaking up the butter into smaller pieces and really rubbing the flour into it. It's going to be really cold, so it might take a little bit of strength to break the butter. You're going to do this until the butter is about pea-sized. Oh, hey, Drew. Can you set a timer for 20 minutes? I forgot to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, baby. I love you. I don't think he's actually going to do it. I think he's lying to me. So our butter is at the right size, and also when we clump, it holds together. It kind of like, if you're a millennial or an older Gen Z, it's kind of like moon sand. If you're younger than that, tell your parents to take the iPad away because you've had too much time on it already. Lastly, we're going to add our liquid, which in this case works out to be about 2 tablespoons of water and an egg. This is also very, very cold because cold is kind of what we really want with this, because we don't want the butter to get too melted or else we won't have a nice flaky crust in the end. Can't find my favorite spatula, so I'm just going to go in here with my hands. You can also just use a spatula or a big spoon, and you're just going to mix this together until it forms a like rough doughy ball. It should look like that. I'm going to put some flour on a clean surface and dump out our dough, and then I'm going to knead this together until it forms a ball. If it starts sticking, add more flour. You really want to get in there and knead. Remember, we are getting someone's sin out. We are rectifying their wrongs. We want to put some effort into this, right? All right, so that's what I want it to look like, a nice smooth dough ball. I'm going to wrap this up real tight and put it in the fridge overnight. I'm going to do the same with our filling as soon as it's done cooking, and I will see you in the morning. Good morning. It's the next morning. My kitchen's a mess because we're throwing a party tonight. If you judge me, you're homophobic. I have my dough that's rested overnight. I have my mincemeat filling, which is rested overnight. I have my coffee because I did not rest overnight. Let's finish this up. Okay, to start off, I'm actually going to take our dough, cut it in half, put half of it back in the fridge so that it stays nice and cool. Then I am going to flour my surface generously. Such a nice surface. You're so pretty, so clean. Also put a little bit of flour on our dough. And now I'm going to roll it out. It's gonna be fairly tough at first because it's still cold, but we want it cold. So we want the butter to make little layers. So that's how we get flaky dough, and flaky dough is the goal. Every couple passes of the rolling pin, I'm going to turn the dough 90 degrees just to keep it from sticking, and also it will help make sure like everything spreads out evenly. If the rolling pin is sticking to the surface, just add a little bit more flour. NBD. All right, we are gonna roll this out until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm gonna take the largest cookie cutter I have, which is a size and dimension I'm not privy to. That is between it and its God. And I'm going to cut out a couple circles from our rolled out dough. I think from this I'll probably get 3 or 4. Yeah, that's good enough. I'm going to take our leftovers, save the scraps. We will use the scraps for like the topping. And now I'm using these mini tart pans. You can use like a cupcake tin if you don't have many tart pans. You can also just make this in one big tart pan if you prefer. It'll just take a longer time to bake. And also these are rainbow, so like pride, which is a sin, and also like gay. But I'm going to take one of my circles, gently slam it into my tart pan, And then with my fingers, work the dough all the way around. Make sure it's getting into all of the ridges. And also like pushing up the dough up the sides of the pan. We don't want to make it too thin though, because then it'll be like weak, and we don't condone weakness in this household. I'm gonna finish up filling up the rest of the tarts, and then I will see you in a sec to fill and top. Wow, okay. All right, so I have all of my little tart pans filled. I have my filling here. To finish it off, I'm just going to put in like a shot of whiskey. I'm just going to eyeball it. 2 shots of vodka. Give it one last wee mix. I gotta put the mic in there. I hope you like that. All right, next I'm going to scoop about 1/3 cup of the filling into each of my little tins. Doesn't have to be exact, it's okay if it's a heaping third. Now for the topping, you can do pretty much anything you want. You can do a little design. If you have like cookie cutters, you can cut out little shapes from your remaining dough. You can just make a flat top, cover it, and like poke a hole in the middle. I'm gonna do, with my little scrap, I'm gonna cheat at making a lattice, because I don't want to make a real lattice, because that's a lot of work. And like cheating's a sin. Maybe. If not, it should be. I'll talk to God about that. And basically, I'm just rolling out my excess dough into little noodles, and I'm gonna put them across our tart. I'm just gonna make a little hashtag pound sign situation. So it looks like that. I'm gonna lightly sprinkle the top with granulated sugar. And then this, as well as all of the other ones, when I finish topping them, it's gonna go in our oven, which I've set at 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until golden brown. I'll see you when we get there. And there we have it, folks, our Sin Eater Since meat pie, perfect to absolve or condemn the Sims. The Sims? Okay. Perfect to condemn or absolve the sins of your fellow man. Make sure you check out Sin Eater on Kickstarter now. Anica, why don't you tell us a little bit more about where people can find you?
Again, my name is Anica Sila. My pronouns are she, they, and I am the creator of Sin Eater. You can find me online on Instagram at Anica, that's ANICA _Sila, CIHLA, or on Bluesky under the name of my game production LLC, which is atticus.haus. That is ATTICUS.HAUS. Thank you all so much.
As always, I've been Dan the Baker. This has been Open Table Adventures, and you are always welcome to pull up a seat. Bye-bye.
But before we get into it, I want to ask you, I'm sorry, I'm co-opting this interview.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing to bake?
My all-time favorite thing to bake is cheesecake. I could bake cheesecake for the entirety of my life. My favorite cheesecake recipe is one in my game Story Bake, not to self-plug myself on your interview, is a dolce de leche.
No, you absolutely should. You absolutely should.
Yeah. It's a dolce de leche brownie cheesecake. It is the most decadent thing, and I love it so much.
One other follow-up question, and then we can definitely talk about Sin Eater. But Sin Eater has a lot to do with food, which we'll get into. But I am a horrible cook. I'm okay at baking, but also I
Mhm.
have no self-control, so I don't bake very often because I'm like, I'll eat this all by myself.
Yeah.
Is there a thing? What is the most common misconception you see about baking where everyone's like, oh, doing this is so easy, and you're like, it's actually not, or like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
I think the biggest misconception is whenever I see people who are like, oh, I don't like baking because baking is such an exact science. Because the science is already done. Like when you have the recipe in front of you, that's the science. It's already done. You just have to read. Like, I think that's also people's most problem is that they don't want to just follow the instructions. That's all you have to do is you have to just follow the instructions and you'll be fine. Because that's the science. Someone already did that. Yeah.
For any of my fellow ADHD Magic the Gathering players who have probably heard multiple times, just read the card. The card does what it says it does. I am unfortunately one of those people that's like, I don't read. I get to like 1 to 2/3 of a way through a sentence and I go, I bet I know how this is going to finish. And then everything I bake turns out maybe